You're still watching the Daily Report with me, George Marenga. Tonight, as we look at matters school safety, my guest, Dr. John Mukundi, joining us all the way from Embu. He's a doctor who holds a doctorate in economics and also a specialist on matters education. He's also the proprietor of Achievers College Embu and Royal Fanaka Academy in Embu. In studio, we still have Hossein Joki Imwengunjiri. He's a fire safety officer with Africa Fire Mission. Hossein, before you cross over to Embu, I will begin by, picking your mind on the SOPs, the ABCs of safety, especially in our schools. You go around schools teaching them and being able to, show them what happens. Talk to us about what needs to be considered, the ABCs, as in these are the reducible minimums. Then perhaps over time we can progress and get, the other issues in place. What are some of the things that even as a parent, when you go in, you're taking your child, private school, public school, that you can check and say, this needs to be improved or this has not passed the check?
Thank you for that question. That's a very broad question.
Okay.
It has a very broad answer, but I'll try keep it brief. One of the things in terms of SOP, number one, the school board needs to come with a school committee, a safety school committee, whereby you find the principal or the head teacher being the chairman, and then you find the PTA members being chairman being members of that committee. You find also parents being part and parcel of that safety committee. That's a non-negotiable. So whenever I go to schools, the first thing that I usually do is to guide them through. You become a friend to them so that you just don't go to enforce. You first of all show them, hey, do you have this? If they say no, my job is to actually guide them and to show them how to do it. You as a parent, what do you need to check? Firsthand, number one, hey, just say, I need to go check where my child studies. Just frisk through the windows. The windows should not have grills. And if they have grills, the grills should be opening from the outward. And if it is opening from the outward, does it have an exit staircase? Can the baby or the children get out safely if there's any danger? Number two, are the windows, can we be able to break the windows or even maybe slide the windows for the children to get out? Have you ever thought another thing? Right now, we are unfortunate we're facing the fire tragedy. But have you ever thought about, for example, if we have an intruder coming in, an active shooter? What is the school prepared for an active shooting scenario? So we have to have, these schools have to have what we call a safety in place strategy. When the security guys say, hey, they press the alarm, they'll know, hey, there's an active shooter. They need now to know what things to do. This is not a fire bell. This is an active shooter bell. So where do they need to go and hide? If they don't have somewhere to hide, how do we block the door so that this active shooter cannot enter the class? And it's all about just being aware in terms of the hallway. You find schools storing so many things on the hallway, and when I'm walking through, you find a broken desk, a broken chair, a dustbin, water spillage. Those are hazards, You can imagine if there's water spillage and you come and slide. There goes your hand, there goes your head, So it's important also for the school to have a policy on first aid. How do we deal with issues on first aid? If a child drops down, how do we report? How do we grab his file and what mechanism do we report even before we give any medication? Because there are some kids who are allergic to certain medicine. Even Panadol you can give, there's a reaction to Panadol. So those are the few things that parents need to be aware of. Yeah.
How about now in the dormitories? You know, also the rules, especially it is night time. Most of these incidents have happened at night. You know, talk to us about the availability of the matron or someone to chaperone the learners.
Availability of the matron is 100%. No, that's a non-negotiable. Yeah. If the matron is not feeling well, who can step in for the matron? You know, these are children, remember? George, these are children. So a child in the Kenyan Constitution is up to 18-year-old. Yeah. So no matter what, they should actually be. Chaperone. Yeah. Somebody has to be inside, you know. And they need to actually, the matron needs to have a manifest. How many children are inside the dormitory tonight? Not yesterday night. Tonight. Yesterday night it was 30, today is 28. Where are the two? Are they not feeling well? Did they go for a trip? Maybe a debate somewhere else? Are they in, where are they? It needs to be clearly marked so that we don't have a situation of there's an accident and again, we cannot even be able to account for our children. You know, thank God all the children, according to the news that I've been hearing, they've all been accounted for. But after how long? That can tell you, bro, that they did not have that manifest. So the manifest needs to always be there. Yeah, one in the dorm, just in case it gets banned, and another one where? In the
classroom.
Not in the classroom, in the office.
The office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think about it in regards to a plane crashing. The pilot or whoever is in charge has the manifest. But then also in the office, they have the manifest so that they can be able to account for all the students and also the plane passengers.
Yeah. We will come now to later on to just see how to now live with the effects for the students who were injured.
Very important.
You know, a personal case scenario from you as well. Daktari, we've heard what, you know, the fire safety officer in studio is telling us, Jose, and there are issues especially concerning, you know, boarding schools, the safety in terms of, you know, is it quantity or quality in a scenario, you know, where people are also trying to ensure that they offer education, juxtapose that to the resources, even for, you know, public institutions where we see quite huge numbers that are accommodated in these dormitories. What are some of the issues that, you know, you would say need more streamlining in terms of especially the boarding facilities, Dr.
I believe the Ministry of Education, they usually, when they are giving their licenses, they usually say that an institution should have at least this number of students. It can support this number of students. And that is something that requires to be strictly followed. And that strict following should be followed by some kind of penalties. Because again, when we have situations whereby people overcrowd the dormitories, then there will be a problem. I have had the problem in Kianguli Secondary was that overcrowding the dormitory door, and they were unable to move out. So we require to have such kind of things so that we do not have a problem whereby some people just overcrowd the dormitory just because of some economic reasons. You know, many people are actually going for economic reasons. You are told that you can only be able to train 100 students, but because you have some more appetite for some money, you go deeper to training around 200. So such kind of things requires to be always on check, and that has to do with a little bit of compliance. But I am also thinking that the issue about other organs, proximity to help, like, you know, that case of Hillside,
Yes.
They took 5 hours so that they can be able to answer to that particular problem. 5 hours is too long, a little bit too long for such a thing to happen. If they had reduced it to around 30 minutes or 15, it would have been better, or even an hour. But now, 5 hours, it is simply brought a lot of disaster, and it's amplifying the situation. That is why I think that there are some organs that we have within the vicinities of the school. Like we could be having the county governments that are closer, and they have fire extinguishers. Those ones can really help. We need to strengthen issues like St. John's ambulance, like the scouts, like the first aiders. And once we have such things, the response will be a little bit fast. But also training those matrons that my colleague is talking about. Those matrons requires to be trained properly, because even if they stay there and they do not know what to do regarding the fire, I believe it will also pose a certain challenge. So I believe those are some of the things, but more so it has to do with not only writing policies down, but implementing them. You remember during Michuki's time, we were told everybody should have a seat belt.
Yes.
You remember during Matiang's time, we were told every bus should be painted yellow. And we never argued. Every bus now is painted yellow. It simply means if we have a stricter cabinet secretary that will tell us this is the way to go, and he doesn't flip his eye, then I believe it will definitely happen. So I think also strictness is required.
Yeah, strictness is required. Talk to us about the drills as well. And of course, we'll pick the mind of Jose here. The drills, perhaps in your institution, how often do you do them to be able to just, ensure that the learners or, everyone in the institution is alive to the fact or to tragedies where some are accidents, of course. In terms of drills, what is the emphasis and how soon should that happen?
Yeah, we usually invite after every 3 months. We invite some people who deal with fire safety in our institution, and not only fire safety. So we invite them in Achievers College, we invite them in Royal Fanaka Academies, and they come and they train us. They train our staff, they train our students regarding the safety of our institution in case of any emergency. But also we have other people, not only in fire, but also in disaster, general disaster management. In case we have an accident, in case we have natural disasters, in case we have security threats, all those disasters that we have, we train them. We train them how to use fire extinguishers. You realize that there are some institutions that put fire extinguishers and nobody seems to know how to use the fire extinguishers. We train them how to use fire extinguishers and other fire fighting equipment, how to use the blanket. They are taught in case such a thing happens. And I believe those ones are some of the measures that we put in place. Also, the fire exits. There are some people who have some exits, but they only know one door. It is important that you also train them that there is another place they can use when they are exiting. So it is something that we usually do, and show them also the evacuation route, and we do that regularly. Every time we must have such particular kind of education passed to our pupils and our students.
Indeed. Thank you, Dr. We'll be coming to you for the home stretch of this conversation. Jose, this scenario, especially at Hillside and afterwards, there are those who sadly pass away, and then there are survivors who live to tell the stories. Talk to us about the adaptability and, living with the scars as, as a victim as well. How do you cope moving forward? These are learners, these are young people, and you know how these groupings behave. There is usually a lot of, and children are innocent. They will run away from you sometimes. They do not know how you look. You come back looking differently. In fact, for you, did you feel that there was that discrimination or there was that phobia? Did you feel neglected at some point?
Yeah, even as you're talking like that, I'm just getting flashbacks of the time that I was in school, and children can be mean, and you cannot blame them. I used to be called names, and it's not their mistake. Others never wanted to shake your hand. Others would just keep off, But then how do they get to adapt? What I'd say is after they heal or when they are healing, the family needs to really, really, really be for them. They really need to stand with the victim. In fact, I don't want to call them the victim. They are victors. These have already fought. They've come out alive. Yes, they are hurt, but they're out alive. So being victors, how does the family support? For me, I was really privileged to have a great family support. My sisters, my brothers, my mom and dad, who are still alive till now. They're even forcing me to wear short-sleeved and shorts just to show my scars, because when people get to see them and I see that there's no judgment, I can really cope very well. The children at my home, at my home place, we were playing together. There were no judgment. There was no discrimination. They were like, hey, this is just a normal person who unfortunately succumbed to these injuries. And even as they move on, their parents need to go for counseling, because this is a shocker. They don't know even how to deal with this new elephant in the room, and how do we tell this? Do we tell them sorry, or do we tell them, hey, you can do it, pick up that spoon and eat? So the parents need to go for counseling and be guided on how to help this child, even the family as a whole. Yeah, and this I call for the government. If there's a possibility, they can go reach out to these families and give them this support, because also counseling is not cheap, So how do they get to support this family, and also for how long? We have a tendency in our country not being consistent, like this document that we're talking about, somebody dropped the ball, so we don't need to drop the ball right now when we come to support these families. Like the drills that they're talking about, we need to do them. And I'm happy that he's mentioned it. It's supposed to be after every 3 months, no fail. Absolutely no fail.
Okay.
So, and this is also the case with the support of these children. How do we get them back to the education system?
Because they will take a break for a while.
They will take a break. Yeah. How do they get to be, if they get to repeat? Because these burns, they can even take up to an year. So how do they get back to simulate back to the system, and how do we get to treat them in a very fair way and a very kind way?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And now towards because of time, we will head over to the other side of the studio for you to just show us. But I want to give Dr. an opportunity to have closing remarks. Dr. one, you can address the reopening of this, school, perhaps if you can. How soon should it reopen? There has been talk from leaders to say they would like it reopened immediately. How soon should that happen? And two, perhaps compensation to these families, to this, the reconstruction as well, even in public institutions, the funding, and perhaps your closing remarks as we wind up the program, Dr.
Yeah, so I believe the institution should open there should be a proper plan because of the kind of trauma
Yes.
that has been caused by that particular incident. So I think there should be, considering those people are a little bit younger, the affected children. So I believe there should be some kind of proper thinking and proper planning as far as reopening that is concerned. But that one has to do with also an accident. So we need to know that the accidents also come, and nobody would want such a scenario to happen. And again, I would appeal to the government to really provide, especially for public schools, they provide enough funds so that we do not have situations whereby the schools are struggling. And I know they won't prioritize the areas of security and safety before they prioritize the area of basic needs like food and other things. So they need also to prioritize that particular area. And then let us also have that culture of observing the rules, observing the compliance precautions that have been put in place. Because the moment we do not comply with those precautions, what happens is that we end up also endangering our lives and endangering the life of others. So if we can be able to follow the rules, we have that culture, I believe it is a culture that can really help us. And also, thank you also for media like TV 47 because of highlighting and educating these people regarding this particular matter.
Okay.
Otherwise, we appreciate.
Indeed, thank you so much, Daktari. We shall be able to proceed and have this conversation. Let's take a break so that you can show us more here, and then we shall be able to also go and check your feedback, keep your questions, comments, and thoughts coming as well. You're watching the Daily Report. Do stay with us.